Hi everyone. So, last part of the audition and performance preparation series. The audition is here, performance is here, congratulations, you made it, you've been working really hard. Now, what does an audition actually look like? First thing for you to know about an audition is that your audition time is very-ish. It's very variable, dependent on whether there are no-shows before you. Sometimes you may be asked to play earlier. If the committee is running a little bit ahead of schedule, sometimes that happens too. It's not common, but it does happen. More often than not, the committee is running behind because they want to hear a little bit more people, or because they're being a little extra picky. One way or another, if your audition slot says you're auditioning at, say, 6:30 in the evening, you won't audition at 6:30 in the evening. You'll be auditioning at 6:20 or 6:40, something around there. I can almost guarantee you that your audition time will not take place at the time that your initial letter said. So, be prepared for anything. Make sure to arrive that much earlier to account for the possibility of there being a no-show and the committee asking you to play early. Now, once you get there, there'll be signs on the door if it's a community venue to tell you which direction to go, and then there'll be a check-in desk. You'll sign your name, and someone, probably the personnel manager for the orchestra, will see you to your audition room and to tell you that they'll come get you when it's your time. Your audition room, sometimes you will be able to hear the other contenders for the job through the walls, or sometimes you'll even be placed in a communal warm-up room with 4 or 5 other people. When this happens, usually the audition personnel manager will direct you to a more private on-deck room 5 to 10 minutes before your audition, so you still get some private time. But you will almost certainly hear the other auditionees. Many of them may sound better than you. Don't get psyched out. It's not your job to determine whether or not you're better than they are. Your only jobs are to enjoy yourself and to play well, to the best of your abilities. Seriously, don't look too much into it if you think that the other people are better than you. I want to say that of all of the auditions that I've won, probably half of them, I did not feel that I was the most qualified person for the audition. But I just plugged away and I continued to play to the best of my ability, and the audition committee disagreed with me. So it really is not your job to measure yourself up against the other candidates. Let the audition committee do that. You don't need to put that pressure on yourself. So, when it's your turn to play, personnel manager will come back and get you, and they will escort you into the audition room, where there will be a big black screen, most likely, between you and the audition committee. The purpose of this screen is to ensure anonymity and to ensure that there's no discrimination. So, no talking. Just keep everything quiet so that they don't know who you are or what your gender is or anything like that. The chair of the audition committee will likely welcome you, sometimes in less than welcoming fashion. I remember one auditioning where, just as I was walking in, the chair of the committee shouted out into the hallway that there was too much talking and that she needed for everyone to be quiet out there. So sometimes it can be slightly shocking, the way that you're welcomed to the audition room. Just be prepared for that. You should be prepared for that, because no doubt you scheduled an adverse mock audition for earlier in the week, in which you were already been exposed to this kind of rudeness. So, once you get in there, take a moment, breathe, prepare yourself. Don't check your intonation. Make sure that you check your intonation before you get in the room, because if you check your intonation in the room, chances are that somebody's going to disagree with your intonation, and that can be enough to write you off right from the off. So do play a couple notes to make sure to test the hall and to get the feeling of what it sounds like, but do not tune. Tune before you get into the audition room. Once you're actually in the audition, you'll have the list of excerpts and you'll know what order to play them in. The best thing that you can hear from the audition committee is, please try that again. Because if they ask you to play it again, that means that they liked your playing, but they want to hear it in maybe a slightly different light, or they want to hear it a little bit faster. Sometimes if you make a mistake, the audition committee will give you a chance to make it right. Excuse me. In the 2 most recent auditions that I took, including a principal audition, I made a mistake in my auditions, and the audition committees gave me the chance to make it up and to make it better. Really good audition committees can tell the difference between just a flub that happens and a fatal flaw. And most good audition committees will give you a chance to make up just a little flub. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't just collapse if you make a mistake. The audition committee will give you a chance to make it up, hopefully, and you should too. What's next? When you're done playing, you walk out, you go back into the audition room. Don't pack up yet, because many auditions will have multiple rounds, and always want to be optimistic that they'll want to call you back for the second round. If they do call you back for a second round, then you'll probably be asked to play a new set of excerpts, still from the list that they gave you way back at the beginning of the audition process. But sometimes they'll ask you to play the same excerpts in different ways, or they'll ask you to play different parts of different excerpts. Be ready for anything in the second round, because if you make it through to the second round, the first round of the audition is all about just, can you play? Can you make music? And once you do that, once the audition committee sorts out the wheat from the chaff, then the second round is about distinguishing yourself and making yourself special. So this is when you really get the opportunity to make some nice music. Once the audition is all over, two things to keep in mind. First thing is to ask the personnel manager if you can get in touch with the audition committee. Some audition committees will make themselves available to the audition pool so that they can give coaching and tips on the next audition, lend some insight as to why they made the choices that they made. Sometimes they will be harsh, sometimes they'll be critical, but you know, if you didn't play well, then these are things that you need to be willing to hear about yourself so that you can get better. The other thing to keep in mind when you're done playing is not to crucify yourself if you feel that you had a bad audition. If you feel that you had a bad audition, you know, they happen. Learn from it. There's no such thing as a bad audition. No such thing as a bad audition. Give yourself the chance to take the audition and play well. Appreciate the things that you did well and expect more of yourself for next time. Learn from your experiences. Okay. Now, performance anxiety. Performance anxiety is tough, and it's debilitating for some people. There are many factors that go into an audition. First thing for you to keep in mind, many factors. Style, fit. Not all of these things are objective things. If you don't win an audition, it may not be your fault. The thing to keep in mind is that you need to have perspective about how you feel you did, and sometimes the best thing that you can do is record your auditions. If you can find yourself a little handy pocket-sized recorder. You didn't hear this from me, but you don't even need to necessarily declare your recorder to the personnel manager. Just before you walk in, turn it on, stick it into your pocket. That's that. Nothing like hearing how you play under pressure. Just give yourself every opportunity to succeed, and if you don't win the job, that doesn't mean that you failed. That just means that you have something to learn, or it just means that the audition committee liked the other person better. That's all and the results of an audition mean. It doesn't mean that you didn't play well, and it doesn't mean that someone else was better than you. It only means that the audition committee liked someone else more than they liked you on this particular day. So, lastly, I have two last things to cover before we bid adieu to this little mini-series here. First thing are a series of tips right from the expert of auditions. Well, maybe he's not necessarily the expert of auditions, but Leonard Slatkin held an auditions workshop at the National Orchestral Institute a couple years ago, and he lent us his wisdom about what he wishes that he saw from auditions. So, here are Leonard Slatkin's tips for auditions. First, be yourself. You and the job should match each other. Now, this sounds really cheesy just because well, if you don't have a job, of course you want the job. Of course you want to be the right person for the job. But if it turns out that you're not a great musical fit for the organization, well, you're not going to be too happy in that job. So be yourself, have personality. Leonard Slatkin also advises you to take a few notes to check out the hall, just make sure that everything's shipshape. Keep your personality when playing excerpts. Many auditions feature many people. One audition that I went to recently had at least 20 people for that audition, and most orchestras will also schedule their auditions for on the same days. So chances are they'll have a viola audition in the morning and a violin audition in the afternoon. The audition committee might be hearing upwards of 100 people by the end of the day. Show a little personality. It could do you some good. Anything that it takes to make yourself stand out a little bit more. Tip number 3, dynamic contrast is crucial. As I mentioned at the beginning of my whole being a polyphonic.org blogger, I've won a number of auditions now. I've now won 4 auditions in a row, and I'm convinced the only things that I'm doing differently now that I'm winning auditions as opposed to when I was losing auditions are being more confident and showing more dynamic contrast. Just remember that there's a lot of space between you and the audition committee, and sometimes these audition halls can be quite boomy and echoey. So something that sounds like a really big contrast to you probably doesn't sound like very much to the audition committee. So just be very aggressive in how you express your dynamic. Let's see here. Oh, this is a really interesting little mental trick that Leonard Slatkin says. He says that rather than playing what you want to make the committee hear what you want them to hear. So just take a moment to imagine yourself in the shoes of the audition committee and imagine what it is that they're listening for. And as you're playing, imagine the way, not that you're making music, but imagine the way that you're shaping the way that they're that they're observing you. It's a little bit confusing, but if you can wrap your mind around that little perspective shift, I found that to be really useful. Lastly, in an audition, there are lots of moments where the audition committee, it appears, wants for you to impress them, whether it's the Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream Scherzo or the opening page or the last page from Don Juan. Anyone can impress. Seriously, anyone can impress. Not everyone can emote. And that's what music is all about, really. Music isn't about impressing. Music is about emoting and expressing your convictions. And straight from Leonard Slatkin says the last thing that he told us was not to tell an audition committee why they should be impressed with us, but to tell them what it is that we feel. So, last word on auditions. Now, there's one last thing that I want to impart upon you before we end this little mini-series, which is a very useful book that I have. It's called Audition Success, and it's by a man named Don Green, who's known for working with the New World Symphony in Miami, and he's renowned all across the nation, if not the whole world, as a performance coach. Many of the tips that I've imparted to you over the course of the last 4 weeks were suggested by Don. I may or may not have stolen them out of his book, and I do give credit to him for many of the ideas here. What's very useful about the book itself, even beyond the things that I've told you from the book, is a performance schedule. He has a 3-week schedule leading up to a performance that is designed to really bolster your confidence and give you lots of positive energy going into the audition. And the first audition that I played that I felt really good about was the audition where I followed Don Green's plan for the audition. I highly recommend that you get this book, if only to better educate you about how to prepare. Because a performance, whether it's an audition or an orchestral performance or a solo performance, is 10% performance and 90% preparation. And you want to give yourself every chance to succeed that you can. So, once again, that's Don Green, D-O-N, not that there aren't any 2 N's there or anything, G-R-E-E-N-E, Don Green, Performance Success. I mean, he has a whole series of books out. That's all I have to say on the subject. So thanks a lot for tuning in and for sticking around for all 4 sessions of the performance and audition preparation series. And I hope to see you again sometime, maybe the next time I blog. So, happy practicing and good luck in your next performance or audition.